Hey, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to the Hanging On to Hope podcast.
I'm Brenda J.
And I'm Karen Wonder.
And we are HangingOnToHope.org.
This podcast is intended as educational and is not psychological or medical advice. Always consult a professional when needed, and we disclaim any liability in connection with the instruction, information, or advice given.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Hanging On to Hope podcast. This is Brenda J. Today, we have Reverend Dr. Sanghoon Yoo on the podcast. Pastor Yoo is founder of the Faithful City, TFC, and led ministries and social services for over 2 decades in the Phoenix metropolitan area. Pursuing recovery from his traumatic season, he encountered the trauma-informed care movement and founded the Arizona Trauma-Informed Faith Coalition, AZTIFC, with exponential growth. He was a founding board member of the Arizona ACE Adverse Childhood Experiences Consortium, where he chairs the Interfaith Committee. With AZIFC, he organizes statewide conferences, regional and national meetings, and develops professional field collaboration with various societal sectors. He also offers trauma-informed care training, organizational and systemic change consultation, and trauma-transformed discipleship. Recently, TFC launched the Creating Communities of Belonging project with a grant award by the Maricopa County Department of Public Health to train faith communities for trauma-informed care-based substance use prevention. Dr. Yoo organized the first annual Weave and Cleave conference in May, recognizing 11 faith-based organizations for their Belonging Community Project training completion. In addition, he is co-managing the faith-based community, PACE's Connection, and sharing the Faith Committee at Campaign for Trauma-Informed Policy and Practice, CTIPP, to advance the movement with national leaders and colleagues. Ooh.
That's a long introduction.
So welcome to the show.
Yes, welcome to the show. This is Karen. It's so nice to meet you.
Thank you for having me. Today, we'll talk about trauma-informed care.
So much good information out there. It's so encouraging to me.
We know that relationships and community help us heal. Part of your program, Communities of Belonging, is a substance use awareness and prevention training. Your material states, so the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it is human connection. And you already mentioned this a little bit.
Right.
Why is connection so important?
Because actually our substance use or craving, we talk about the brain, the process theory, because our brain constantly tries to survive. And then when the brain feels like, oh, I'm anxious, so I need something to, or I'm very painful, I need to forget about the pain, right? And then brain goes to the first thing and easily can find. And so maybe it can be the substance we're talking about, the alcohol or the drugs or illegal drugs or opioid, we're talking about. So in order to change the pattern of our vicious cycle, the most powerful is that, as I said, brain is the interpersonal organ. So I need somebody that I need some connection. I can spend that time instead of going back to the drug. I have to spend some other time with something else. Mm-hmm. You heard a lot about the dopamine, which is a reward hormone. Mm-hmm. And so my dopamine dump is happening when I get the drug I used to do, and there's no other choice, a quick fix. This is the only one. Yeah. But in that sense, I need to really give up that dopamine system. Instead, I need to learn how I can produce dopamine based on my relationship. There's a pleasure. The connectivity brings me more motivation. Right? Because I did a lot of work with the young people, they love to drink and all this. And I dealt with all the college people. So it takes time, but later on they figure instead of going to bar and, all the things, they have a more meaningful and they have a more rewarding relationship. It takes time, but it's going to win over. And it's more steady. When your dopamine or reward system is built based on the relationship, then you don't want to choose the other alternative. But if you don't have a strong relationship, that's what I'm talking about: identity, culture, belonging, all the things. If we have a strong connection with that, then you have a very good foundation to prevent or resist against substance use or suicide or any other kind of attempt to numb yourself because of pain of trauma. But if you don't have that, you really don't have a much foundation fight against those things available around you. And so it's very, very, very important why we need to have a sense of belonging. And also the brain science tells us when my brain system sends the sense of belonging, I feel safety. I feel safe. We've been talking about 1 hour, more than an hour, how much safety is important for trauma. So in many ways.
So even with addiction.
In many ways, we really work hard to build a steady, constant, safe, trustworthy relationship, which is not much about really medical help or, therapy help. We need to have a good buddy, good friend. And I hope that church can really provide those amazing opportunity of the good, steady, non-judgmental, safe relationship.
Yeah, I just was thinking when you were saying all that is because and I just think about my kids who are on their phones so much, which isn't that connection. I mean, so that dopamine, they start getting the dopamine fix from their phone, which isn't real. There isn't a connection there. It's like an artificial connection.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, maybe the connection is better than no connection. But we know that the brain works differently when we have a screen and versus when you have a real person next to us. And so that's kind of a sad thing we were having. But again, I said this, right? God cares more about distance rather than performance. He asks, where are you? He wanna be intimate with his children. And that's what we need to really generate as a lifestyle of a Christianity. Christianity is not just about the reading Bible and pray more. And it's really build a good relationship, a community of God, because that's a source of life and healing and restoration.
Yes, that's so well said. What is substance abuse and addiction? And can you give some examples and statistics of death rates, and then also between like the cycle of PTSD and substance abuse?
Okay, so I think nowadays people know what substance abuse or substance use, and some people call substance misuse or addiction. And there's a, dictionary definition with their substance use is use of illegal drugs or the prescription and over-the-counter drugs or alcohol for the purpose other than those for which they are meant to be used, or in excessive amounts. And out of this, that it can lead to very social, physical, emotional, and job-related problems. So, in other words, it's very hard to what is the stage of abuse, right? Or just we say social drinking or healthy way of the consumption of the substance. Well, basically, if your social, physical, or job or your work, that life gonna be non-functional, then it's really brings a lot of red flag, and you need to really pay attention to that. And so the more we do this, we raise our tolerance of the amount of the substance, and then it becomes addiction. So, which means chronic and relapsing disorder characterized by compulsive drug seeking and continued use despite the harmful consequences and long-lasting changes in the brain. The problem is that, as I said, that if I'm addicted, my dopamine dump gonna require that I need that to be rewarded quickly, and then substance gonna and totally the change and my brain system, so I cannot properly and healthy way of the coping with my life. It's slowly killing you, and so substance use addiction is very dangerous and sneaky. And now, even we know these days, there's a very dangerous drug. If you just to consume even one pill, you can die immediately. So the death rates is crazy. One chart here says that death rates for natural semi-synthetic opioid and heroin have remained relatively stable. However, the death rate for synthetic opioid, which means we all know the name fentanyl, right? Has increased by over 6,000% the last 10 years. And, we heard that from about a couple of months ago that in Arizona, each day, 5 people die out of fentanyl. And the
Wow.
problem is even there's a lot of accidental fentanyl death, which means they are not seeking for the fentanyl, but they went to the party. The friend just to give
Yeah.
the fentanyl. They didn't know it was fentanyl, and they just have it, and they die.
Yeah.
So it's very, very serious, because unless you set the good boundary and you as sensitive, you watch out, how you engage with the people and friends, then you can be unintentional sacrifice with a very detrimental, critical result of your life. And we need to know about it. I mean, the most important thing in substance abuse is they're not just talking about definition, what it is. First of all, it's related to shame, like a trauma. People don't want to talk about it. And the parent says, "Oh, my kids don't do this." They never talk about it. Why? As we talk about here, they watch the phone every day. We cannot control everything they watch.
Yeah.
And even they're very naive. They go to the vacation trip, and we don't know what they're gonna handle and have. So it's very, very important that we always need to have an open communication, right? It's like I heard the fentanyl is really bad. Don't do that. Okay, that doesn't help.
Yeah.
Really ask very non-judgmental, a way that's why we need to have a more kind of a requisite stage, which means kids needs to feel safe with you, other than that, they ain't gonna say anything. So that's why safety is not only for the trauma, it's really all the relationship wise. We need to build the safety and trust, and then the kids gonna talk about it. And then the more you talk about it, they're gonna raise their kind of a sensitivity about this drug and substance use problem, and they're gonna be careful with what they're gonna do. It's not only for the kids, of course, but the kids are very vulnerable, and that's why, I'm saying that.
So freely available, like fentanyl. I mean, that's what's scary. You hear about it all the time. Like you said, it just takes one pill that can end someone's life, and that may be the only pill they ever took, that was related to that. But
yeah, and there are many adults that they had a surgery and then they had to take an opioid, but it became addict. It can become addictive to them, so they got into that opioid addiction. That's also very, to me, I feel like it's a very not fair, right? If they just be treated or judged by people. The thing is, the cycle is that when we have a pain, we want to numb the pain.
Yeah.
And then the brain, my system is trying to find the something can easily kind of numb myself, right? And so once I got substance and all kinds of illegal legal substance, then actually my brain sector gonna enjoy it, and once it happens, then it gonna become more habitual. Then we got into the substance misuse, abuse, and then addiction. And so it's very important to cycle. But in that cycle, there's a factor of shame, anxiety. You can see that. So the problem is we hide it because it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
But if I don't have open communication with anybody, right, then I hide it and I feel shamed, and it can be more anxiety, right? More pain. And then so I'm more kind of wanted that. And then so once I have the drug, I feel like good about it. However, it doesn't go forever, right? And then so life, it has a lot of the ways of giving you the anxiety and pain and challenges. And the more I have it, my system is already looking for it. And then on the other hand, also I'm resisting, but it's not strong, and I feel very ashamed. And so because of out of this, that I cannot help that the finding and seeking for the drug, but also I'm isolating myself. And then it become more mental health and social issue, as well as my physiological issue because of addiction. And so it's coming together. And then that's kind of a vicious cycle, because finally it kind of exposed. And then later, what gonna say? My mom and dad or my kids or my spouse all gonna ask, did you do drug or not? Their focus is only the behavior. So it makes me more unsafe. And then I just go more vicious cycle and deeper and very in a dark spot. So very important that's why you're talking about substance use prevention by education, awareness, and training, but also this is not popular in the faith community, and I don't much agree with it either, but there's a harm reduction. A lot of public sectors talking about it, which means anyway, we know you do the drug, but if you use the very dirty needle and it can give you HIV and all other different critical disease. So the harm reduction is like we want to be there where you are, and we want to accept that you are taking drugs, but we want to really educate you. You need to be safe and you need to take care of your health. Although you cannot stop the drug, the more you get healthier and the more you get safe, you think better, right? And so you can have a better choice to building more resistance against the drug use. That's kind of the model of a harm reduction, but that's not popular. A lot of faith community cannot accept it, and I totally understand, agree.
So harm reduction is just educating the person to help them understand what they're doing, and then what's the SA prevention?
So you heard that a clean syringe, exchange. So harm reduction is kind of they provide a clean syringe instead they use the dirty ones kind of constantly. But substance abuse prevention is actually, so harm reduction is more about those who are really addicted, but the substance use is really prevention is that we do a lot of education training, and then we bring the sense of a belonging and then healthy community. So really empower each individual. And so based on that healthy community building, which is what I'm doing through the community of belonging, then we talk about it, right? That opposite of the addiction is not sobriety, is a human connection, human connectivity. If we build a good knowledge, but also good human connections and healthy community, you're gonna help people to aware more, sensitive more, recognize more, but to respond better and even resist against that further use or the first use of a substance. So prevention is very focused on empowerment and healthy choice.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You talk about reducing the mental health stigma. How can we do this, and why is this so important? We know this is, to me, this is a big thing with the church, the stigma.
Yeah, that's very interesting that, again, a lot of times we're only thinking about that. When we think about the mental health, the suicide, all types of the non-physical illness, we only think about therapy, counseling, or some medication. But the real major hurdle is actually stigmatization, not by the patient, but by somebody who become very judgmental against those who are suffering.
Yeah.
And that's why I said our movement is not really for the people who are in the treatment, but for the people who think that they don't have anything to do with the trauma or mental health addiction and those things, because they think that they are better, they are normal, and then their judgment is right. But that stigmatization, not based on the real issue of a people's life, but based on the social norm, right? Or appearance, or really shame-based culture. And that really blocks people seeking the help.
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody want to be judged. Nobody want to be misunderstood. Nobody want to be really downgraded and despised.
Right.
And the irony is we always say, well, I want to help you. That's why I'm telling you, I am asking you all the things, but actually you're not helping. Actually, you're making more distance.
Right.
And again, that's why it's very, very important. The first step of all healing comes with a safety and trustworthy relationship, not just something you think helpful, like providing food, housing, and all good, and medication, counseling, all good. But people, unless they can find where they belong as a community or safe relationship, the healing and restoration, which takes a long time, can be really limited. Because I am also part of the Maricopa County Suicide Mortality Review Board. There are about 25 experts. I'm the only clergy there, but we read the suicide cases quarterly and to kind of impact the policy of public health. But ironically, most of the cases, they had a history of drug abuse or high ACEs, all the things that we can think and imagine.
Yeah.
But major hindrance is that they need help, right? And then we say they need to go to community, find somebody to get help, but they don't go. Why? Because of stigma. They don't want to be judged. So what is the main problem? To me, it's really educating people. Also, addiction, if you buy the research, most of people get addicted to drugs and illegal drugs, not because they want that, but because of something happened in their life, like a trauma.
Yeah.
And they want to just numb the pain. That's why they go there.
Yeah.
So we need to really understand their stories, and instead of putting them with a stigma because their behavior, we need to really understand them in a human perspective, and then we need to accept and embrace them, and then be partner of their healing process.
Yeah. As you're saying that,
That's
I
good.
just keep correlating Jesus, and that's what he did. He, he was a friend of sinners. He had that connection, that non-condemnation approach with them, like you were saying.
Right. Can you give some examples of perceived threats to safety, and what are the 5 C's of safety and stabilization?
So we say the trauma is not just a danger. Trauma is a perceived threat, because when we talk about what happened to you, right? And also Dr. Gator Mate said, this is not about really what happened to you, what happened inside of you. So, we say perception is reality, right? Likewise, that although some certain things not by the threat to anybody, but me, if something is a threat to me, then it can be a source of my re-traumatization. And so I have a lot of exercise asking people that what is the perceived threat to your safety? And again, safety is not just about the physical, but I'm asking what is the threat to your safety in terms of your mind and thoughts, emotions and culture, spirituality, as well as your body and your connectivity. Because if you don't have any connection, safe connection, you are not safe. Obviously, that I have my own some ideas about that, but a lot of times people talk about, again, what we talked about, stigma and judgmental statement and comparison, and even making conclusion like, oh, you're like that, you are always like that, those kind of the statement.
Yeah.
And either too much try to helping or just the indifference, very shutting down. Body, either no space or too close space. In America, there are many good virtues we have as a tradition. Self-sufficiency, independence is very important. But you know what? We need to be independent for our social, economic life, right? We don't want to have much debt and those things. But for our spiritual soul, our personal health, we need more of a connectivity. Self-sufficiency cannot be an excuse to disconnect. That's what I'm saying. And that's why we talk about isolation. You have a solitude to spend time with God is a good thing. But if you isolate yourself or you are isolated because nobody want to connect to you, or you think nobody understands you, and that can be actually a threat to your brain system, which can re-traumatize you. And then culture-wise, again, I say the ethnocentrism, which means my culture is a standard. And that's very dangerous. And then automatically you reject the other's culture because they have to follow you instead of you're going to equally respect to each other. And so there are a lot of prejudice and stigma and ignorance of the culture and history. And the spirituality, I'd say that I'm not talking about religion or institutionalized religious system. I'm more talking about, we talked about who you are, who I am, your identity, and issue of shame, because the shame is about who I am.
Yeah.
So if who you are is denied, it kills your spirit, in other words.
Yeah.
So born again means what? Again, being born again, born from above means you become a child of God.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, you're going to be a healing minister. It's not about your job or what to do. It's about who you are. So it's very important that who you are needs to be accepted instead of rejected.
Yeah.
And that because of a social discrimination, bias, stigma, there are so much kind of a cultural abuse that we pour out to people. It become very personal, perceived threat, and they just don't come. And then we think, we just open the door, they don't come. That's their problem. No, you need to really think about how much I'm safe. And it comes down to a lot of sensitive issues. We need to think deeper. And if we want to establish the safe and stabilized relationship, actually, we need to give more choice to the people. Instead of asking yes or no questions, we need to learn how to give more choices to the people. So in other words, when people have more choices, they feel safe because they have more their own control, right? Giving more choices. And then another C word, I say control. It's not about really I'm controlling you. It's more about somebody I'm helping really have a sense of controllability. And remember this, sense of controllability comes with predictability. And the predictability comes with consistent, constant interaction, right? So that's why it's very, very important. As I talked about it, consistency and constancy is very important to build a safe relationship. Why? Because, I think Brenda, you said that, I don't know how this person gonna react today. I don't know how this person gonna respond tomorrow. If there's no predictability, there's no controllability, you don't feel safe.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're somebody says, I go to that person, they always shake hands and hug me, whatever I poured out, she always hug me and then ask me. That's the brain process theory. If I know there's a consistent responses, it's predictable, then I feel like, there's a controllability of our relationship, then I feel safe.
Yeah.
And so choice, control, a lot of connection and confidentiality and collaboration is very, very important. Collaboration, of course, we need to work together. When you try to help somebody, don't think that they cannot do anything. You are the only one provide a certain opportunity. Just try to learn. I always say, try to learn from the victims and survivors as well as yourself. That's very important. Instead of asking, you should do this, you should do that, I learned this, you should do that. It's also asking, how could you do well so far? I just learned your resilience, right?
Karen's always encouraging me.
Yeah.
Like, look how far you've come. You don't see it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And then confidentiality. When I talk about confidentiality, I always say this. Don't try to say, whatever you say, cannot stay here. Rather, if there are certain things you cannot be confidential, actually clearly present it, clearly express it.
Okay.
So we have a lot of issues of, mandatory report and all the things, but it's very important that not only just promising that confidentiality without any sensitivity, we need to really limit our confidentiality. If we have an integrity between what, talk and talk and walk, then they're going to be more feeling of a safety and trust.
Yeah. Yeah. They all go together.
Yep.
So your material states recovery is a process of change through which individuals improve their health and wellness, live a self-directed life, and strive to reach their full potential. Did you want to go over the recovery principles?
Well, so for the recovery is really pulling out the potential to restore and recover. And my material talk about the hope and person-driven. So in terms of a hope, actually, I want to say hope is not about the improvement of your life. If you are in Christ, our hope is more ultimate, the place where we go. The reason I'm saying this is, I think you heard that. Relapse is a part of recovery. So it's not only about just making progress. Although there's a setback, that's also part of our process. It's a journey. So it's very important. We put the hope that until that we see Jesus again, right? That's the place where we're going instead of just improving your life. So we need to have a biblical hope. And person to person in relationship is very important, and many pathways. So again, we talk about the ethnocentric or egocentric way. There are a lot of pathways to go there. I always say this. Jesus said, "Oh, to Father, I'm the only way," right? But if I say, "But to Jesus, there are many ways," people get freaked out, right? Well, you can receive or accept Jesus in so many ways, by healing or by, there's so many activities, so many ways that to reach it to the Jesus. Recovery is the same. And then it has many pathways, and it needs to be very holistic, which means, again, now science really tells mind and body and soul, everything is connected. So we need to take care of everything. Again, we are all connected internally and socio-ecologically. So it's very biblical, very, very important. Even I really nowadays more literally believe when Jesus said, if you're angry with your brother, you're going to become like a mother, because all the bullying and all the discrimination and stigma and then assault and verbal abuse, those really impact our neural system, our immune system, and that impact our long-term health issues. And this is scientifically proven nowadays. And so we are only focused on the physical violence, but abuse and all those things, it comes down to everything, every activity of all our parts of our life. So holistic is very, very important. And peer support, well, we talk about the importance of the sense of belonging and connectivity. And a lot of times the peer support is very effective because it's not just a one direction. And then I feel like there is a sense of belonging and building tradition more easily. So recovery principle is really hope and people oriented and in-person meetings and many possibilities, pathways, and being holistic and relational. And we talk about the culture already, the importance of cultural tradition, and address the trauma, because a lot of times that's a root cause. So we are not focusing on the behavior, but we focus on the resilience, and then address the trauma because that's the root cause. Give me more pain and the craving for the addiction and substance. So we need to heal. We need to be healed from the trauma. And then out of this, we more focus on strengths-based approach. And so which means that a lot of times we only focus on negative and pain problem to fix. We call this a pathogenic approach. But we need to be more solarogenic approach, which means we more focus on the well-being and wellness, our access, what we have, and our strengths, what we have. Like maybe you don't have much talent, but you have a patience, you have a perseverance. You know how to survive in a very serious situations. Maybe some people don't have anything. It needs to be celebrated. In my training, I talk about 3 C's to build a community belonging: challenge, concerns, and celebration. Challenges needs to be recognized and then share in the relationship. The concerns needs to get aware and then being cared. And then with renew our mind and body and spirit. And then we need to celebrate our identity. It needs to be affirmed, and then it needs to be empowered. So this is very important. We say, now we don't say addict, even peer support group, we don't say addict. We say, I'm the person in the long recovery. And I say this there too, because well, honestly, I'm a person in a long recovery from my own religion. But anyway, we have something we need to be recovered. And so we really know that we need to respect, and we are respected. And especially in Jesus. Jesus is in us, and we are children of God, and we cannot be judged based on our unintentional trauma behavior. Instead, our story needs to be respected, although that's not grand and, amazing. The stories is like testimonies. And those kind of small things are very important for the recovery, because we can just go one step at a time, and then we need the people like Jesus who told us, go extra miles, right? Forgive us 70 times, 7 times. And those things are very important for the recovery.
Yeah, I love how you talk about just recognizing what our strengths are, because we all have some kind of strength, and then celebrating it. I like that.
Yeah, because when we celebration, we always think about gold medal, victory, all those things. We already have a strength.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Bible says, the Lord is my strength.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What else we need?
Nothing else.
We are enough.
Yeah.
That's very important.
Yeah. And I like that you mentioned, because obviously our podcast is called Hanging On to Hope. And we were going over in our Bible study Romans, because then we were talking about what biblical hope is. You can't see it. If you could see hope, then it's not hope. So it's just that trusting that God is good and he's going to get you through whatever comes your way.
Yeah. Amen.
Brenda and I were both so excited to hear that you have, and this is such a passion of mine as well, started to implement trauma training in churches. And yeah, I definitely want to hear more about that. What is your plan to reach churches? Definitely see a need for that.
So I've been doing the movement in 10 years. So
To be continued. Stay tuned for next week. You don't want to miss it.
Thanks for tuning in to Hanging On to Hope. Check out our website, hangingontohope.org. There are resources on there, and if you would like to donate or volunteer, you can do that through our website. We are a brand new nonprofit, so we appreciate any and all support. And we thank you for listening, and until next time, keep hanging on to hope. We are evidence that there is hope and healing for you, and our passion is to help you find it too. So thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for listening, everyone.